My name is Mel. This is Create and Company. That's Rena. And we're going to keep going through the Creative Act, A Way of Being today. So this mini chapter is called Memories and the Subconscious. And here Rick Rubin starts off saying that when vocalists are recording songs, sometimes they start by just making gibberish sounds with their mouths. They're just like, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was probably not what they're doing, but anyway, they make weird sounds and then something comes out of that. And he says, there's no active attempt to write in this process. The work is being created on a subconscious level. The material exists hidden within. How cool is that? So he's talking about how from the randomness and from the subconscious and from the non-intentional, clarity and messages and truth and art can come through. There are practices he shares that he says can assist in accessing this deeper well inside yourself, this deeper resource. So one that he shares, and I've done this one before, is to release your anger on a pillow. So just punch it until you're super tired. Has anyone else done this here? If so, share in the comments below. I once had a coach who was helping me release anger in a more healthy way, because often, especially women, have been like societally expected to repress anger, and we're not about that. So this is a cool activity. He says, beat on a pillow for 5 minutes. It's more difficult than you might think to do this for the full duration, but time yourself and go hard. Then immediately fill 5 pages with whatever comes out. Stream of consciousness writing. And if for some reason you're not a writer or you have some kind of pain in your hand, I recommend a voice note about everything that comes out after that intense anger release. The objective is to not think about it, to avoid directing the content in any way. Just write whatever words spill forth. Has anyone here read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron? She talks about the activity, the habit of morning pages, which I did for a long time. And that's very similar. It's just whatever is there. Don't judge it. Don't even feel like you need to finish a sentence before you go to the next one. Fill those pages. He says there's an abundant reservoir of high quality information in our subconscious, and finding ways to access it can spark new material to draw from. Okay, so maybe you've been burnt out with your creativity or your creative process and projects, and this is a refreshing new way to tap in, which is the unconscious. So the second tool that he gives, which these are activities that you can comment below once you've done them. If you want accountability, you can always email me too at createandcompany@gmail.com. The second one is keeping a dream journal, because your dream state is also a very different conscious state of consciousness. And as somebody who has deeply studied dreams, I have deeply studied them. I've read a lot of books about dream science and about lucid dreaming. I have achieved lucid dreaming. I've had prophetic dreams that predict what's going to happen in waking life. I'm such a fan of the dream world. I can attest to what Rick Rubin is saying here. The more you intend to remember your dreams, the more you will. And he says what I always coach on when I teach dream recall, which is record your dreams before you even move your head or open your eye. Well, open your eyes, that one's tough. Unless you have a voice recorder, which I used to do, that was a really good tool. Anyway, even if you open your eyes, try to keep as still as you possibly can, because any movement can jostle you out of the dream state. And set a firm intention before you go to sleep that you will remember the dreams the next day. And the more you do it, the more you will remember them. As you write, the picture will develop and you'll remember more of the story, more of the setting, more of the details than you did when you first set your pen to paper. So trust that if at the beginning you're like, I barely remember that, the more you sit down and let it out, the more will come. Memories can also be thought of as dreamlike. They're more a romantic story than a faithful document of a life event. And there's good content to be found in these dreamy recollections we have of past experiences. So the third recommendation is tap into your memories, as dreamy and foggy as they may be. Maybe you can make it a habit daily to sit down and remember certain times in your life, certain events, or remember certain feelings. Another helpful tool, the last tool he puts in this mini chapter, is randomness, or more accurately, apparent randomness, since there may be organization happening on a different level than we understand. When we throw the I Ching, so I've never played this, but it sounds like when you do, you know, the game with sticks where you do that and then they're just all over. He says with the I Ching, for example, we don't determine how the sticks or coins land, but through them, we get information we can use to help decision making. And once again, bypass our conscious mind and perhaps tap into a larger intelligence. Did y'all catch that? How cool is that? So check this out. It also reminded me of the Turkish coffee reading, like fortune reading. Turkish coffee is like very grainy. And when you're done with it, it leaves, it almost looks like the riverbanks of a, yeah, it looks like riverbanks. It has this, it etches the inside of your small coffee cup. And I think it's really cool that they have this ancient tradition where they will read the lines of your coffee. And that randomness, there's all these little symbols. It's like when you see shapes in the cloud, or they read things on your palm, or even in your eye. Have you guys, I mean, there's a science to that. You can read a lot about someone from looking at their eye. Okay, next mini chapter. It's always there. This one's called It's Always There. So this was a short and sweet mini chapter about the metaphor of even when you don't see it, the sun is always there. He says he is strongly affected by the sun. I am too. Comment below if you're very affected by the sun and how you connect with the sun. I like to worship the sun in the morning. And sunrise, yeah, sunrises, sunsets. I love the sun. When it's a bright day, I feel energized. When it's gloomy, I'm gloomy, he says. And on those overcast days, it helps to tune in to the fact that the sun is still there. It's just hidden behind a thicker layer of clouds. At noon, the sun is high in the sky, regardless of how light or dark it is outside. So as someone who lived many years in Lima, Peru, where there was often a very thick cloud cover, this was helpful to remember that, like, whenever I took a plane out of Lima, it was shocking to see all the blue and all the bright, and it's like, it's there, it's just not always being shown to you. And therefore, he ends this chapter by saying that regardless of how much we're paying attention, the information we seek is always out there. And if we're aware, we get to tune into more of it. And if we're less aware, we miss it. And he gave us this little bittersweet reminder at the end. For me, it was bittersweet. That, like, if we miss it, it does pass us by, and that tomorrow we'll have another opportunity for awareness, but it's never an opportunity for the same awareness. So I thought there was like a, okay, wait, I can't just wait on it. Like, I can't just sleep on the opportunity to be aware, because tomorrow's awareness won't be today's awareness. Not to stress us out. It's just subtle differences between yesterday and today. Okay, next mini chapter is called Setting, and it's all about how we're affected by our settings. And so he's encouraging us to find the best environment to create a clear channel for you. And what I love is, similar to what we keep seeing day after day, opposites can live together. There's no one right, one wrong in this sense. Like he says, for some people, the quiet is what they need. For other people, the busy city is what they need. Isolated places like a forest, a monastery, or a sailboat in the middle of the ocean are fine locations to receive direct transmissions from the universe. I get that a lot from a forest. I've never been on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean. Comment below if you have. Tell us about it. Monastery, I have been in very close to what you would call a monastery. I've been in ashrams, and I've done the Vipassana, which they kept referring to as like monastery practice. So I've been in very silent and focused places. Forest for sure helped me. What is a setting that helps you? And remember, it can be a very busy setting. Like he says that you can be in a busy spot with people coming and going, and then you're tuning into the collective consciousness, and that's totally fine too. I mean, I live in a city right now, and there's definitely a lot to take in, and this is where I'm currently working and creating. He says, when he does talk about like if you're within a culture, if your setting is like a lot of art and a lot of social media and you're in the hubbub buzz of society, he does say it's helpful to view the currents in the culture without feeling obligated to follow in the direction of their flow. Instead, notice them in the same connected, detached way you might notice a warm wind. Let yourself move within it, yet not be of it. So there was a little hint of keep yourself as yourself and notice the current. Don't be swept by the current. Don't feel you have to follow what you see around you. Let's see. Okay, he concludes the mini chapter on setting, talking about the influences and opinions of others as being part of your setting. And then it's not always easy to follow the subtle energetic information the universe broadcasts, especially when your friends and family and coworkers and those with a business interest in your creativity are offering seemingly rational advice that challenges your intuitive knowing. So he says to follow your intuition, and that in his career, he's always done that, even against being recommended otherwise every single time. So he's reminding you, you don't have to be understood or agreed with. And check this out. He says, it helps to realize that it's better to follow the universe than those around you. It's better to follow the universe than those around you. And then I said he finished with that, but actually his last paragraph had a whole new point I liked. So I'm going to summarize that for you. He says that you're going to start to have self-doubt. I think what he's doing here, it's like a bridge to the next mini chapter, because the next mini chapter is called self-doubt. So here he says that, let's say you do overcome the voices from without, and you're like, nope, I'm going to follow within. He reminds us that even within, you're going to have other voices. They're going to try to take you down. Interference may also come from the voices within, the ones in your head that murmur, you're not talented enough. Your idea isn't good enough. Art isn't a worthwhile investment of your time. The result won't be well received. You're a failure if the creation isn't successful. Do any of these sound familiar? If you want, let's get vulnerable. And in the comments below, you can comment, what does my negative inner voice tell me about my creativity? He says it's helpful to turn those voices down so you can hear the chimes of the cosmic clock ringing, reminding you it's time. And then this got sticky because he said, your time to participate. I like that. I liked the your time to participate. Are you feeling like you're participating in your life, or are you on the sidelines watching the life of others and watching the ideas of your life? But are you participating? Are you getting your hands in the clay? Okay, we're almost done. The last mini chapter is called self-doubt. And that is a little too common, too familiar for me and for a lot of us creatives. And yet, here's what I love. He makes it so, he normalizes it, and almost, check out what he does here. He does it really well. He says, self-doubt lives in all of us. And while we may wish it gone, it is there to serve us. Flaws are human, and the attraction of art is the humanity held in it. If we are machine-like, the art wouldn't resonate. It would be soulless. With life comes pain, insecurity, and fear. So I put a sticky on that one. With life comes pain, insecurity, and fear. So it's like, hey, this is part of the package. We all have it. Art wouldn't be art without it. So this is a refreshing, like taking off the pressure and not making you think you have to get rid of your self-doubt to create great art. And then he says that we're all different, we're all imperfect, and the imperfections are what makes each of us and our work interesting, right? Like, what artists do you most like? And have you ever been able to see their imperfections? Have they shown that? Is their art actually beautiful because it has imperfection built into it? We create pieces reflective of who we are. And if insecurity is a part of who we are, then our work will have a greater degree of truth in it as a result. So that one got a sticky, because now it's like, hey, this is actually one of my superpowers. I'm going to let the insecurity make my art be even more truthful. So I'm liking this so far. What about you? Okay, now he transitions into this logic that I hope will support you. It supported me. He says, art is not a competitive act. Our work is representative of the self. And then he says, you would be amiss to say, I'm not up for the challenge. Yes, you may need to deepen your craft to fully realize your vision. If you're not up to it, though, I'm adding the though, no one else can do it. Only you can. You're the only one with your voice. Okay, mic drop. Okay. So yeah, this is a powerful chapter because he's reminding you that it's like phony and fake for the ego to tell you that this is a competitive act and that someone else can do this better than you, because he's reminding us no one can do this like you. And then if you're not up to it, well, it just won't get made. They might be something similar, but it's not with your voice. It's not yours. So, whoa, it's not through you. And then he says that he goes back to talking about the sensitivity of an artist. So the sensitivity that allows them to make the art is the same vulnerability that makes them more tender to being judged. So here's the rub. It's like, hey, remember how at the beginning of this book, we talked about how many artists were sensitive to protect themselves, and that same, like they were sensitive because the world seemed unsafe in some way, and then that sensitivity turned into their ability to see more, feel more, express more, share more. Now he's saying that that same sensitivity makes you extra vulnerable to think, hey, I might be judged. But then he like really asks us to step up and says, if a creator is so afraid of judgment that they're unable to move forward, it might be that the desire to share the work isn't as strong as the desire to protect themselves. So this is where you got to have the trade-off. Like, am I going to be bigger than that fear of judgment? Am I going to desire to share this so much that I can just push through the fear of like, I'm going to be judged? And then he gets really like, real on us, where he's like, you're not obligated to follow this calling. We are not obligated to follow this calling because we have a talent or skill. It's worth remembering that we are blessed to get to create. It's a privilege. We're choosing it. We're not being ordered to do this. If we'd rather not do it, let's not do it. So I like that as well. A long time ago, one of my first coaches was like, remember that any project or anything you're like struggling to get out there, that you say you want to get out there, like it's a choice. So ask yourself, do you want to do this or not? Because no one's forcing you to. And I believe that's a wonderful reframe for a lot of us, because we can often get stuck in like a victim mentality of thinking that we can't do this thing that we have to do, but like nobody has a gun to your head that I know of to make your art. And so this is a really beautiful and healthy reframe. You're not obligated to do it. And it's actually a privilege, and it's a blessing, and it's a gift that you even got the idea and that you even have the ability to create. One of the reasons so many great artists die of overdoses early in their lives is because they're using drugs to numb a very painful existence. The reason it's painful is the reason they became artists in the first place, their incredible sensitivity. So this is what I was referring to earlier. Like, often this is a society that might have wanted to like tell us that we are weak for being sensitive, or that we're inefficient or not productive, or that we don't fit in, etc. And so I love that he's retasting what sensitivity is, where it can bring our downfalls, but also where it can actually be our superpower. Okay, we're almost done here. He says, these charged emotions, powerful when expressed in the work, are the same dark clouds that beg to be numbed to allow sleep or to get out of bed and face the day in the morning. It's a blessing and a curse. And he ends there. Yep. I'll read a little more that was earlier because I like this part. If you see tremendous beauty or tremendous pain where other people see little or nothing at all, you're confronted with big feelings all the time. When those around you don't see what you see and feel what you feel, this can lead to a sense of isolation and a general feeling of not belonging or otherness. And then he says that, so he's being empathetic, and he understands. He's a creative. He's like, yeah, these feelings can keep you in bed. These feelings can make you want to numb yourself. These feelings can make you feel super isolated. These feelings can make you want to give up. And these feelings are also part of what can help you be a beautiful, brave, bold, creative. So on that note, I will see you next time. We are getting through this book and the colors are starting to rainbow change with our stickies. Please leave me any of your feedback, your comments, your questions, or any of the activities that we've gone over that you're starting to apply into your creative life. You can comment below, or you can email me at createandcompany@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, share it with a friend. Let's keep growing this Create and Company. Bye.